wind howls differently when it sweeps across the sandstone cliffs of Nottingham. Today, if you stand at the base of Castle Rock, you hear the hum of traffic, the chatter of tourists, and the distant rhythm of a modern city. But if you close your eyes and listen closely to the echoes trapped within the caves beneath your feet, you might hear a different sound. You might hear the silence of a town holding its breath. We begin our journey in the middle of the 14th century, in the year 1349. The Great Pestilence, what we now call the Black Death, has just swept through these streets like a scythe through wheat. Half the population is gone. The narrow alleys, usually teeming with the noise of blacksmiths and bakers, are hauntingly quiet. The air does not smell of industrial smoke yet. It smells of wet earth, wood smoke, and the lingering scent of sickness. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic paintings, maps, and engravings to life, shifting perspective to let us step back into the past and see Nottingham as it truly was. We are not merely looking at dates. We are walking the streets of a town struggling to remember how to live. Imagine standing on the high ground near the castle. In the late 1300s, Nottingham is a divided town, split between the French borough and the English borough. A legacy of the Norman conquest that is slowly fading into a unified identity. The architecture here is organic, grown from the earth itself. The houses are not the red brick of the future factories. They are timber-framed, wattle and daub, their thatched roofs sagging under the weight of damp English rain. The streets are unpaved, churning into a thick, clinging mud that coats the boots of the few survivors walking them. There is a raw, primal beauty to this era, but do not be romanticized by it. It is a place of immense filth and danger. Without a sewer system, the refuse of daily life, animal waste, rotting vegetables, the offal from the butchers, is cast into the street, waiting for the rain to wash it down toward the River Leen. The smell is pungent, a mixture of unwashed bodies and the tanning pits that are beginning to spring up, the first stirrings of industry. Life here is fragile. A cut on a finger, a bad harvest, or a harsh winter can mean death just as surely as the plague did. Yet, as we walk down from the castle heights toward the great marketplace, we see the spark of resilience. The market is the heart of the medieval town. It is vast, one of the largest in England. An open space where the social hierarchy dissolves into the chaos of commerce. Here, you see the contrast that defines this age. You see the shadow of the sheriff's authority, looming from the castle, representing the king's law, often harsh and unforgiving. But down here, among the stalls, you see the common people. They are not broken. They are haggling over the price of wool. They are selling grain. They are rebuilding. The caves, carved deep into the soft sandstone beneath the houses, serve as cellars, tanneries, and sometimes dwellings for the poorest souls. This is a city that exists as much underground as it does above. As the sun sets over this medieval landscape, casting long shadows against the timber beams, we can sense a shift. The town is healing. The wool trade is beginning to pick up speed. The sheep grazing on the nearby hills are no longer just food. They are the currency of the future. The silence of the plague years is ending, replaced by the rhythmic clatter of the loom, a sound that will grow louder and louder until it drowns out everything else. Time marches forward, indifferent to the struggles of the peasantry. As we move from the mud of the medieval recovery into the 17th century, the face of Nottingham begins to harden. The timber frames are slowly being reinforced or replaced by brick, a sign of growing permanence and wealth. We find ourselves now in August of 1642, standing once again in the shadow of the castle. But the atmosphere has shifted from the quiet dread of the plague to the sharp metallic tension of war. It is here, on a blustery evening, that King Charles I raises his standard, effectively signaling the start of the English Civil War. Look closely at the scene. The king is not the distant golden figure of paintings. He is a man anxious, surrounded by soldiers in buff coats and steel morions. The wind on this hill is treacherous. History tells us the standard, the king's own flag, was blown down that very night, a dark omen that whispered through the ranks of the royalists. The people of Nottingham watch this with a mixture of awe and terror. They are the ones who will feed these armies, who will house them, and whose sons will die in the muddy fields surrounding the town. The air here smells of wet wool, horse sweat, and the acrid bite of gunpowder, a new scent that will become all too familiar in the years to come. Leaving the high drama of the castle, we descend into the labyrinth of the town below. By the late 1600s and early 1700s, Nottingham is transforming. We walk through the narrow marsh, an area that is rapidly becoming a dense hive of humanity. The gardens that once separated the houses are being filled in. Landlords, hungry for profit, are building back-to-backs, cheap housing squeezed into every available inch of space. Listen to the sound of the street. It is no longer just the hammer of the blacksmith. There is a new rhythm here, a mechanical clicking that comes from behind the closed shutters of the cottages. This is the sound of the stocking frame. Invented by William Lee, a local clergyman, this machine is the catalyst that will change the world. But for now, it is a domestic beast. Step inside one of these cramped cottages. The air is thick with lint and the smell of oil. A family is crowded into a single room. The father sits at the frame, his hands moving with a practiced, blurring speed, working the pedals with his feet. His back is bent, his eyes straining in the dim light of a tallow candle. Beside him, his wife is seaming the stockings, her fingers raw and pricked. The children are winding wool, their small hands blackened by the dye. They are not playing. They are part of the machine. This is the era of the framework knitters. They are proud artisans, yet they are beginning to feel the walls closing in. The merchants who supply the wool and rent the frames hold the power. We see the hawkers outside the window, selling ribbons and lace, their voices shrill against the constant clack, clack, clack of the frames. There is a sense of urgency here. The leisurely pace of the medieval market is gone. Time is now money. Every minute the frame sits idle is a minute of lost income. The architecture reflects this shift. The grand townhouses of the merchants, with their elegant Georgian facades, are rising near St. Mary's Church, standing in stark, arrogant contrast to the squalor of the narrow marsh. The divide between the rich and the poor is etched into the very stones of the city. The nobility walk these streets in silks and powdered wigs, holding scented handkerchiefs to their noses to ward off the stench of the tanneries and the open drains, stepping over the puddles where the children of the knitters play in the grime. The stage is set. The pressure is building. The cottage industry is about to explode into something far more monstrous and magnificent. The timeline accelerates, and the gentle clicking of the cottage frames is drowned out by a roar. We enter the 19th century, and Nottingham is no longer just a town. It is a pressure cooker waiting to explode. The green spaces are gone. The garden city of the past has been suffocated by soot and brick. We stand now in the dark winter of 1811. The Napoleonic Wars have drained the country's resources, bread prices have skyrocketed, and the framework knitters, once proud artisans, are starving. This is the setting for our major historical event, the Luddite Uprising. Imagine specifically standing outside the frantic, crowded tavern of the Sir Isaac Newton on Glasshouse Street. It is night, and the fog is thick, mixing with the coal smoke to sting your eyes. Shadows move in the darkness, men with faces blackened by soot to hide their identities. They carry not just anger, but heavy sledgehammers, which they affectionately and terrifyingly call Great Enochs, named after the blacksmith who forged them. These are not mindless thugs who hate technology. They are desperate fathers watching their children fade away from hunger. They are rebelling against the factory owners who use wide frames to produce cheap, shoddy stockings that undercut their wages. Suddenly, the cry goes up. General Ludd commands it, and the mob surges forward. We follow them to a nearby workshop in Arnold. The sound is visceral, the splintering of wood and the shrieking of twisting metal as the hated frames are smashed to pieces. It is a violent, chaotic protest against the dehumanization of the industrial machine. For a brief moment, the workers hold the power, striking fear into the hearts of the merchants. But the government's response is swift and brutal. Soldiers flood the streets, and the breaking of machines becomes a crime punishable by death. The rebellion is crushed, but the industrial beast cannot be tamed. As we move into the mid-Victorian era, the architecture of Nottingham undergoes its most dramatic transformation. The medieval layout is obliterated. In its place rises the Lace Market. Walk with me through the stony street of the 1850s. It is a canyon of red brick. These are not mere factories. They are temples to commerce, designed by architects like Watson Fothergill, who blend Gothic revival with industrial utility. The buildings tower 5-6 stories high, their windows large and numerous to let in the light needed for the delicate work of lace inspection. Inside, it is a hive of activity. The air is filled with the microscopic dust of cotton fibers, coating the lungs of the lace runners, often young girls, who scurry between the floors. But there is a dark irony here. Just streets away from these grand warehouses, where Nottingham lace is being packaged to adorn the queens and empresses of the world, lies the narrow marsh and the broad marsh. Because the town's burgesses refused to enclose the common land surrounding the city for so long, the population had nowhere to expand. So they built inwards. We step into these slums, and the contrast is physically revulsive. The density is suffocating. There are courts and alleys so narrow that you can touch the walls on both sides with your elbows. Open sewers run down the center of the walkways. Cholera is not a stranger here, it is a resident. In the 1840s, Nottingham has some of the worst living conditions in the entire British Empire, worse even than the notorious slums of East London. Standing here amidst the architectural grandeur of the Lace Market and the squalor of the marsh, we see the true cost of the Industrial Revolution. It is a city of breathtaking wealth and bone-deep poverty, stitched together by the very thread that made it famous. The world wears Nottingham lace, but the people of Nottingham wear the scars of its production. The city has become the textile capital of the world, but the human spirit here is frayed, stretched to its breaking point, yet somehow still holding on. The smoke clears, and the noise of the steam engines fades into the hum of the 21st century. We stand now in the present day, blinking in the sunlight of a modern Nottingham. The journey from the medieval mud to the industrial smog has left its mark on every corner of this city. Let us return to where we started, Castle Rock. The castle itself has changed many times, from a medieval fortress to a ducal palace, burned down by rioters in 1831, and now a museum. But the rock remains. Standing here now, looking out over the city, the view is no longer of thatched roofs or smoking chimneys. We see the sleek lines of the tram network, the glass frontage of the Nottingham Contemporary Art Gallery, and the sprawling campus of the universities. Walk with me back to the Lace Market. This spot is now a vibrant quarter of bars, apartments, and creative businesses. The grand red brick warehouses on Stony Street still tower over us, but the windows that once let in light for lace inspectors now illuminate luxury lofts and design studios. The Adams Building, once the largest lace warehouse, is now a college, filled with students studying the very design principles that built this district. The silence of the Luddites and the roar of the machines have been replaced by the buzz of nightlife and the click of laptop keyboards. Yet, the ghosts of the past are still here. Walk down to the area of the Broad Marsh. Until recently, it was dominated by a concrete shopping center, a monolithic structure of the 1970s that severed the city's connection to its southern roots. As that center is being demolished and reimagined, the ancient street patterns are re-emerging. We are literally unearthing the footprint of the narrow marsh slums. We walk on the bones of the past, on the very ground where the framework knitters lived in squalor. It is a sobering reminder that our modern comfort is built on their suffering. The old market square remains the beating heart of the city. The council house, with its great dome and the booming bell, Little John, watches over a space that is still a gathering place for the people. It is cleaner now, paved and open, but the spirit is the same as it was in 1349. It is a place of commerce, of protest, and of community. We have traveled through 7 centuries. We have seen a city brought to its knees by the Black Death, rise through the grit of the Civil War, explode with the fury of the Luddites, and cloak itself in the grandeur of the Lace Market. Nottingham is not just a dot on a map, it is a testament to human resilience. It is a city of rebels and artisans, a place that has constantly reinvented itself while keeping one foot firmly planted in its caverns and caves. History is not just dates on a page, it is a place we can visit. If there is another city you'd like to see reconstructed, let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching.